Welcome to Tenacity with Sonia C., the podcast where we dive deep into stories behind the success, uncovering the lessons learned and the insights gained by leaders and innovators in the business world. I'm your host, Sonia, and today's guest joining us is Amanda Greaves. Amanda is a former interior designer turned author who has transformed her life's challenges into opportunities for growth and self discovery. Amanda's journey from running an award winning design company to confronting personal and professional turmoil and emerging with a newfound purpose is remarkable. Join us as we explore the pivotal moments that led Amanda to redefine success and find genuine fulfillment. This episode promises to be a compelling exploration of resilience, transformation, and the power of self reflection. Let's get started. Hi, Amanda. Welcome to the podcast. I'm excited to have a chat with you today.
Oh, this is going to be great, Sonia. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
We have a lot to talk about in today, so I just want to get to it. I was looking at your bio and your book, and I'm like, okay, this is going to be a really good episode. So I want to start off before I get to my first question. I want to sort of bring up something that you mentioned. So you spent 13 years running an award-winning interior design company. You started to realize that you liked what you were doing, but you just didn't love it anymore.
Yeah.
Felt unfulfilled and overworked and yearning for something different, something else, more connection, more meaning, more purpose. And in 2022, after some reflection, I assume you decided to make a change.
Yeah.
So, can you walk us through what was going on that led you to make this drastic change in your life?
Yeah, absolutely. It so I've been a designer for 20 years, have been running my own company for 13, which is still going. I am very fortunate that I have a very strong team working within my company, so they're still going strong. I have a great lead designer and it's working out great. During the pandemic, the construction and design industries really got hammered um, between lead time issues and product delays, and then workforce problems of not people just not being available. And it wasn't just the design and construction industries; it was everything, a million times over. But I was able to shift. I was able to change. I was able to be flexible within those environments, but I was feeling a lot of volatility.
Mhm.
And I was working on one particular large development, and the customer, the owner of the development, really, he kept pushing, kept pushing, kept pushing. There was a lack of reality within his expectations, and that's when I really started to feel undervalued in my career. And that's when I stayed in one of the finished products, and I could see just how many corners had been cut.
Mm.
And I wasn't proud of the product that was there. And it was frustrating to me because as a designer, you want to be proud of everything that you do. And then there was another client who didn't appreciate what we were doing. And it kept stacking. And I realized it was the energy that I was giving off as well.
Mhm.
But at the same time that development situation was happening, I was also in a abusive relationship with a narcissist.
Oh.
And it was emotionally abusive. There was no physical aspect to it, but it tore up my self-esteem. It inflated my self-doubt. And I got to a point where midway through 2022, I really didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't know what I wanted to do anymore. And there were a couple of conversations and a couple of instances where, I wasn't getting the answers. And it wasn't like I was demanding. I wasn't getting anything that I wanted. I wasn't feeling fulfilled in any aspect. And after two big blowouts, one on the professional and then one on the personal, I just finally threw my hands in the air and I said, I'm not doing this anymore. It had been a roller coaster ride of massive ups and then massive downs, and then massive ups and massive downs. And I got caught in a cycle with the narcissistic boyfriend and slightly narcissistic developer at the same time. And it beat me up
Yeah.
emotionally. And I got to a point where I said, this is this is not how I want to live my life. I do not want to feel this way. I felt run ragged. I was exhausted, and I decided that going into the second half of my life, because I'm not quite 50, but I'm not that far away, I realized there was so much more to being able to find joy and being fulfilled. And I was fortunate that my company could stay afloat while I sidestepped and wrote the book. But it was much more dramatic than that, but it was definitely two situations where I just said, this is it, I'm done.
Good for at least realizing it. A lot of people go their whole lives without even wanting or need or being able to make that change.
Well, 3 years. The boyfriend and I were on and off for 3 years, and at the end of 2022, I realized he had been living a double life and had a girlfriend at the
Oh,
exact same time that we were together the entire time. And when the developer asked me to go to a concert with him in Las Vegas, I'm in Massachusetts. I got to a point where I thought, where are the lines? There's no lines here. Nobody's respecting me. And that's when I said I've had
yeah, usually that'll do it.
it. You'd think. You'd think.
So you recently wrote a book called The Chameleon Diaries,
Yeah.
Designing a Life Worth Changing For.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to write this particular topic?
I've been writing my whole life, just journaling, if you will. And I started writing stories, so to speak, about 10 years ago, just as a creative outlet. As an interior designer, I have a creative outlet with cooking and with painting, and I sing in the shower and, various different things like that. And literally 2 years ago, I was on a hike with some neighbors, and one of the neighbors was like, "Wow, Amanda, you've lived a pretty interesting life." And I just stopped and instantly said, "Yeah, I'm going to write a book someday and take the show on the road." And like literally, I had said it. I had said for years and years and years, "I'm going to write a book someday. I'm going to write a book someday." And so finally, I just did. I pulled out all the stops, and I had been working for a couple of years to decrease my responsibilities within the design firm, which really opened up the opportunities for me to create the space to write the book.
Mhm,
And the it's about people pleasing. It's about changing for to please this person. It's about uncovering your limiting beliefs of not being enough for some, being too much for others, trying to meet their expectations, so you do a little bit more, trying to meet their expectations, so you do a little bit less, and the vacillation between that just stacks all these concerns and uncertainties of who you really are at the core. And those two pivotal moments, if you will, with the boyfriend and the developer, that's when I realized I wasn't 100% certain with who I was, where I was going, where my passions were. And the book started out as, almost every story was going to be about how much of a jerk they both were. And then I realized they had taken so much of my power for so many years
mhm.
that they didn't deserve to take it as much as they
Oh,
had any longer. And I didn't want to, memorialize them in a book about narcissism. And I
wow.
realized as I wasn't, because they're in quite a few chapters, but I've got 5 times those already written that never made it into the actual book, because I realized this isn't a book about them. It's about, how did I even reach those two pinnacle moments in the first place? Because it builds. You start when you're a child, and things build. And these two were just the catalyst. They were the straws that broke my back, in the sense of everything. It was, the boyfriend before him was just a warm up. The one before that, he was just a warm up as well. And I realized I needed to go inside
Mhm,
and start uncovering all the different layers, all the different facets of who I was, who I am, and who I want to be,
mhm,
to really go through. And the diary aspect comes through because most of the stories were documented in my journals, and it's very much a, hey, I feel like shit right now and I need to change some things. And I don't know how many times I read that over how many years and how many books, and finally I went ahead and made the changes.
So the chameleon, What does that represent? Is that because you were trying to be a chameleon in every situation that you were in, or what does it mean?
The chameleon to me is just that. It's the people pleasing aspect. It's the I'm going to change just a little bit to fit in with this group of people. Oh, I'm going to follow your dream because it seems a little more attainable than mine. I'm going to make sure that I dim my light over here so you don't feel like, you're in competition with me, or I'm going to raise my expectations over here because everybody else is so much more. And it's that imposter syndrome. It's getting through those feelings of who am I? And really doing the deep, deep work to uncover who you really are. And the chameleon is like, we all have a chameleon aspect in some fashion. So that was also it's an attractive concept because there's more people out there that can relate to being a chameleon than I actually ever realized until I brought the title of the book out. And then the designing a life worth changing for is a full play on words because I'm not negating the last 20 or 30 years of my life as an interior designer. And that is the one positive constant that is woven through all of the chapters because I've been a designer for 20 years and it is the one passion I have stayed true to.
Mhm.
So again, it's a play on words to pull the two themes together.
You just mentioned the diary part that you wrote. So actually, I had a question for you about it because I when I was looking into it, I was curious. So you offer the Dear Diary question at the end of each chapter to help
Mhm.
readers interact with the lessons. Can you share how this reflective practice has helped you in your personal transformation, and why did you decide to include it in the book?
That's another great, you're full of great questions. This is awesome. So within my journaling, I'll back up a little bit further. I've been utilizing the knowledge and experience of different professional, business and life coaches for over 10 years. And there are so many exercises that they have you do. It's like, your New Year's resolutions. What do you want? You write down all of the things that you want, but there are so many opportunities to say, okay, well, I want to have a great relationship. All right, well, one of the Dear Diary, one of the chapters is about understanding your relationship patterns.
Mm,
But that's the subtitle of the chapter. You've got these overlapping patterns. What kind of style, what type are you attracted to? And mine have been tall, short, skinny, wide, whatever, but they've all had the same type of personality.
mhm,
And when I started to understand that, when I really started to look back, understanding like how I peeled back my own personal layers, it's like if I could take all the information that I've learned from all of my coaches and just spit it all back out there to anybody that's looking to get out of their own way,
mhm,
I thought, gosh, I wish I had this stuff when I was 30. I wish I knew this stuff when I was 35. And then as I was writing, I'm like, huh, my primary avatar is a woman who's 30, who wants to have a family, who has this career that she's wrapped her life around, and she can't manage the relationships on the other side. But there isn't anybody else out there telling her, hey, you know what? If you just tweak this, maybe if you ask yourself that question, maybe if you dig in a little bit more here, you'll make the change at the age of 31 or 32 so you don't end up at 48 single without the children that you've always wanted. And so the more I started to dig into where I've landed in my life and how very significant choices really impacted where I am now, I want to speak to all of the old me's. And
mm,
so I threw all of the coaching, all of the questions, all of the what are you attracted to? Why? Is there anybody in your life that you wish you could go back and apologize to? Is there something that you would like to talk to this person about? Why are you so concerned about and asking those kinds of questions to prompt the readers to dig into themselves. The book is about peeling back the layers. It's about, I mean, it's definitely a memoir for sure, but with the Dear Diary aspect of it, there's a supplemental portion that comes with the book that's called the Reader Transformation Guide. And it's the chapter, the underlying message. What are your limiting beliefs? What are your triggers? What are your
Mhm.
relationship patterns? You know, what are your overlapping bad habits? Those types of questions. And so the Dear Diary really starts to pull those elements together.
Okay, I love it. I mean, I'm listening to you and I'm like, we have a lot of things in common.
Yeah.
I'm also in my 40s, single, no kids. Maybe the
Yep.
best for me. I also
If
was
you're in your early 40s, you still have time.
that's fantastic. I'm glad to
Yeah.
hear it. Uh, so you talk about overcoming limiting beliefs of not being enough for
hmm
someone or too much for others.
hmm
How did you identify these beliefs in yourself, and what was your first step towards dismantling them?
Yeah. So the not being enough is, if you talk to anybody around the world, that it's very, very common. You know, not being enough, or I'm unlovable, or I just don't have enough resources, or there's a half a dozen common limiting beliefs that cross everybody's mind at some point in time, the majority of people in the world. And the not being enough has actually, it was an aha moment one day in a coaching session where my coach turned around and she said, "Amanda, you have got to give yourself a break." And I said, "No, I got to keep going." And she said, "Who are you trying to prove this to?"
Right.
And I thought, shit. Like,
She's
who
right.
am I? Like, you know, I've been pushing so hard for so many years to try to make sure that my parents knew that I was doing the best I possibly could, even though it was different than what they wanted for me. You know, like, I just kept pushing, pushing, pushing because I wanted to prove to everybody that I could run a design firm better than the last 2 or 3 companies that I worked with. And as I was pushing, pushing, pushing to run that company, I had an amazing boyfriend who was like, "God, you're so intense. Do you ever take a break?" And I was like, "Oh, now I'm too much." So then I took my foot off the gas and I started to feel the effects in my business. And this went on for years, years and years and years. I mean, well, 10, 12 years. And I didn't understand the value of being able to be, you know, the polarity of the masculine versus the feminine. In certain business aspects, you have to have strategy, you have to have purpose, you have to have drive and motivation. And but I took all that home with me. So I was always like that. And the softer side of my feminine got hidden underneath. And so
Mm,
as I was, you know, going through boyfriends in the sense of not finding what I was looking for, I realized I just kept pushing all of this love away because I had been so stuck in my darker masculine energy for so long that these really wonderful guys were like, "God, you're like you're a lot."
yeah,
And I found that I can still be a lot, and that's totally okay, because there's going to be a guy out there that understands the reasoning behind it
yeah,
and isn't going to come in and change me, and I'm not going to try and come in and change him either. And I mean, I have been single during the course of writing this book, and it was an intentional aspect because I said, you know, I've made myself available
mm,
for
yeah,
everybody all the time and put myself last. And I finally turned around and said, I have this really big, amazing, awesome project that I'm working on, and I'm just not available right now, which was a big, big thing to learn how to do.
I mean, I have so many follow-up questions to that. I mean, first off, like I said, I feel like you and I have so much in
Yeah,
common, and
yeah,
maybe my way of thinking or my perception or it might be different, but I just want to like put it out there and we can talk about it. So
yeah.
you were talking about like being too much or not being enough and people accepting you. Like I find that I'm in the same place. I run a company and I have to be assertive and that comes across as
Mhm.
being a bitch or
Yeah.
I'm this and this and that. And when it comes to dating, I find that people want me to be my feminine. They want me to be in my feminine side all the time, but that's not who I am. So my question to you is like, why can't we just be who we are and why can't that be accepted? Why do we have to compromise being, strong women and being our feminine sides all together? Why do we have to do the switch? why do you have to leave your assertiveness at work and not bring it home if that's what you're feeling at the time? Like,
Mhm.
what's wrong with that?
There's actually, Sonia, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And honestly, taking a step back and not having to explain myself to anybody for a while I was uncovering and digging in and discovering and falling in love with me, which is something that I stopped. I didn't even understand it,
Mm,
whenever, but I realized that I wasn't in love. I didn't fully accept myself.
right.
And now I'm at a stage where if I'm feeling as if I need to compromise who I actually am in whichever type of social situation, that social situation isn't the right situation for me.
Yeah.
I have a choice to stay and do that compromise, dim my light, shine a little harder, be a more feminine, stay in my mask, whatever it may be. Or I can turn around and say, this has been real, not quite what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And not have any attachment to what the potential results are going to be. And that again is one of the other massive lessons that I've learned is we're women. We're compassionate. That's how we're wired. We care about people. We want to help. We're natural empaths to a certain degree. That's what my challenge has been. I'm empathetic. Somebody's like, "Oh, this is what's going on." I'm like, "Let me fix it. Let me come in and fix it for you. I have all the solutions." And sometimes it's a matter of just being like, "Wow, I'm sorry that's going on."
Mm,
Because it's not my responsibility to jump in and save them. It's
yeah.
our responsibility to reach out and ask for help. And
Yeah.
so, like, in the dating world, it's the same thing. If somebody's saying, "Oh God, you're a lot," and you just be like, "Okay, next."
Yeah.
Cool, I'll see you on the next. There is somebody out there that's going to turn around and be like, "Wow, you're so much. This is great." And there you'll have moments where you'll turn around and just be like, this might be one of those times where you're a little too much, but I'm going to take the good with the bad and I'll just be over here and wait till you're done with work. But it's falling in love with me. It's falling in love with ourselves that makes me realize that there is no need for compromise
Yeah.
unless, for whatever reason, I know deep in my heart and my soul that this particular person, that particular situation is totally worth it in the end. And it's like negotiating business deals and stuff. Of
Yeah.
course, there's a give and take. Of course, there's a negotiation element within a lot of things that we do in life.
Hmm.
But to compromise your own personality, your own drive, your own integrity, that's just a non-negotiable for me.
So you meet the man of your dreams.
Yeah.
And who is Amanda going to be in the perfect scenario in a relationship?
Oh God, that's a massive question. Well, the man of my dreams is also going to be I'm going to be me. I'm going to be the caring, compassionate, driven, passionate, motivated, sometimes lazy, over exuberant, sometimes totally not interested person that I am on both ends of the spectrum. Like I'll be sexy as hell, but I'm going to be in sweatpants tomorrow, and like the whole it's about understanding that these chameleon-esque layers that we all have within ourselves, we more importantly learn how to accept who we are
Mm,
regardless of the clothes that we're wearing because we want to feel sexy, not because we're doing it for somebody else, or regardless of how much work we're putting into a project because we know that it's important to us,
yeah.
regardless of what anybody else thinks. And so when that perfect man comes around, of course it's going to take work. Anything worth it is going to take work, but I truly believe that he's just going to say he might be just like me, he might be nothing like me. I don't know, but I've done my little I can't even say that it's little. It's this ideal partner exercise. It's one of the Dear Diary sections, and then you write down some of the things that are non-negotiable.
Mm, I
If
like
somebody
that.
comes along, if somebody comes along and he's a 9 out of 10, but if that number 10 is one of those non-negotiable things where he either must be this or he must not be this,
Mm,
you have to be confident enough in yourself to be able to let go of it and walk away.
Yeah, I like that.
It's I haven't had a lot of practice in this mindset yet. I got to be honest, but when the time comes, I'm looking forward to it, and only in the sense of like I've been doing so much work over the last couple of years, and after all of the healing and the growth after the abusive relationship, and then, working with clients that just didn't appreciate what we were doing for them, I'm excited for the opportunity to do this book launch and to get back out there and to start meeting people and be social, because there's a lot of human interaction is just so amazing.
Mhm.
But I'm finding, and I've been practicing like at family events, it's like, okay, I'm not comfortable in this situation. I'm going to go over here, and just knowing where I am and not worrying about what anybody else is going to think,
Yeah.
because
That,
it doesn't matter.
and you know what? Family's perfect to practice on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they're
I
always
mean,
there no matter what.
yeah, they're always going to be there. They're always going to be there. And you may get in an argument, you may get pissed off with each other, whatever, but you'll come around,
Yeah,
hopefully.
for sure. So you mentioned that by sharing your experiences, you hope readers can avoid making some of the same mistakes you've made or reach their goals faster. Can you give me an example of a common pitfall you see falling into when seeking transformation, and how might they avoid it?
Common fitfall, a common pitfall, and how to avoid it. Well, it's going to piggyback on what we were just talking about. Understanding what your non-negotiables are,
Mm.
or for the very, very straightforward conversation, listening to your intuition and recognizing red flags.
Oh, okay.
So when you like, if you don't know what a red flag is, that's great, because it means that you've either never experienced them. I'm hoping that's the only reason why. But red flags are somebody says something to you and you get a pit in your stomach and you're like, "Ugh, it doesn't feel good." That pit, that
Yeah.
funny little niggle, that's your intuition saying, "Run, don't walk." And if there's anybody listening to this podcast right now and you know what the red flags are and you recognize them in the relationship that you're in, or you recognize them within the relationship of yourself,
Mm.
I'm asking you, and by recognizing them, just being like, well, I know I shouldn't be sleeping with this guy, but it's still really fun, and so it's okay. Well, no, it's not okay, because just listen to your voice, it's like, it's not all right. Raise your standards.
Yeah.
You're when you say, "Oh, it's okay if I just do this with that person," we're just having a good time. That's an excuse. That's a full-blown excuse of you just saying, "I can't find exactly what I'm looking for, so this is going to be just okay." I
Do,
it's like you got to raise your standards. You have to turn around and say, "Okay isn't good enough. I want outstanding. And if I can't get outstanding, then I'm just going to keep looking for it."
do you think part of that is because women are so empathetic that I mean, I have friends who are like, I know I shouldn't be with him, but maybe he'll change,
No,
right? I,
no.
I know, but like, what makes us do things like that? Is it because we're so empathetic, or is it because we're completely oblivious, or is it hope?
It's hope.
It's hope.
It's it's hope. It's hope that It's hope that we are strong enough. We are powerful enough. We are attractive enough that these men will feel the desire to change for us.
Mm. Yeah, that's not
That
good.
is a dead end, red flagged road. And that's the hard that's I just got chills saying that. It's one of the hardest lessons that I've had to learn. I've gone into most of my relationships and it's like, yeah, it's having fun. Well, he drives too fast. I can get used to that. No, I can't. I get sick, right? Can't get in the car with him. Oh, well, he bites his fingernails. I can get used to that. No, I can't. It's like that's not good enough. Oh, he's in a dead end job and he's not motivated. No, it's like I don't care how good the sex is. It doesn't matter, like, and it's we degrade ourselves when we say it's okay. And I want women, I want all of us to turn around and say, I deserve what I believe that I deserve. I am worth what I believe I am worth.
Yeah.
As simple as that. And then own it. Just, I believe that I should be dating a man that has blah, 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 and that does this and that and this for me.
And you're
There's
not
nothing,
willing to compromise.
and you're not willing to compromise. And you know what? How many times have you ever said something like that to somebody and they're like, oh, good luck?
Yeah, all the time.
Those types of people don't exist. Oh yeah, good luck finding that. That doesn't happen. Happiness like that doesn't. Well, you know what? Then you're not the type of person I need to be talking to that much.
Or
And
he'll
it's,
say then you'll be alone forever.
you know what?
That's okay.
After this year, I got to tell you, Sonia, after this year of understanding how to do a lot of these things, I'm realizing one of my biggest sayings I've said my whole life, I've basically been in a relationship since I was 14, right?
Yeah.
Overlapping, whatever they may be. And I'm like, God, I'd rather be in this shitty relationship than be alone.
Ooh, that's a
Right?
big
How many times have people said that? I'd rather be I'm too afraid to be alone. God, being alone? Ew, you're a loser. Like, what do you mean? Nobody wants you? And it's like, no, I've raised my standards. I know that I'm better than that.
yeah.
And it's
So
okay.
it's so funny you're saying that. Like I got married when I was 20 and I
Mhm.
married my first boyfriend and we were together 12 years, married for 10 and a half.
Wow.
And I didn't know what it was like to be alone. And we got divorced when I was 30, 31, something like that. And since then, I've had like a couple relationships here and there, but I always get to a point where I'm like, it took me so long to get out of that toxic relationship, and I was
Mhm.
stuck in it for longer than I should have been, that I had to take time to be alone to heal, number one. But then something developed out of that. I got addicted to being alone, and I
I
love it.
I
But
know.
the problem is there's a downfall to that for some people, which is I'll meet a guy and he'll be like, oh, when was the last time you were in a relationship? I'm like, oh, 10 years ago or 5 years ago, whatever. And they're like, oh, well, there's something wrong with you. Like, what do you mean you haven't been in a relationship in the last 6 months? You live alone, you have a job, you support yourself. There's something wrong with me for that.
No, there's nothing wrong with you. It's threatening to them.
Oh,
They look at that. They look at a lot of men, and this, and again, I feel like we're on the cusp of breaking through these perceptions, in as far as like women being women. Like we are. I feel like our voices are just louder now. We're not being pushy. We're just louder. People are hearing us in a different capacity. Our independence in the basic format of how men and women function is
mm,
threatening to men because they were created to protect and to serve and to provide. The protect, serve, and provide. Those are the things that they're supposed to be made. That's like their caveman intuition. And for us women, we care for, we're empathetic, and we provide as well, but on a softer level. And so when we take that ability for a man to provide for us or to protect us because we might have a security system in our house, or we go and we take kickboxing or karate, or you know whatever it may be, it's almost as if we're emasculating them without even knowing that it's happening. And what our new responsibility with all of this new independence and our addiction to being alone, and the fact that like, yeah, I got this, is understanding how important it is that men still have the ability to protect and to serve and to provide, and let them open the door, let them pay for dinner. If a man wants to pay for dinner, do not offer to split with him. Just
right.
let him pay. Let him do what he naturally wants to do. And it's sometimes that can be challenging,
Mhm.
but we have to understand more than what we want as women. We also have to understand what men want. And I don't look at that as a compromise of my standards of what I want to do. I look at it as an opportunity to understand and to serve him in a way, serve the men that we're dating, serve the men that we're living with in a way of just allowing them to be their natural force.
And them allowing us to be our natural force as well, right?
Yes. Very important.
Yeah. Okay, I
But
like
yeah, I feel like having being able to have those kinds of conversations with your partner is also where the clarity comes from. And my goal is to be able to have these kinds of conversations with the people that I'm dating and with, with the man that I'm with, so they can understand where I'm coming from. If a guy listens to this podcast and is like, wow, she's out there, and then he meets me and we try to have a conversation, he's like, no, but I think you're really cool, I really want to date you. And I'm like, well, what did you think of the podcast? And he's like, oh, blah blah blah. I'll be like, great, it's nice to meet you, see you later.
yeah.
And it's, they don't have to like everything about who we are, but you need the common interest. You
Yeah.
have to have it.
You also have to like be yourself and speak your mind and how you speak. I had dinner with a friend the other day and he was like, hey, listen, let me ask you a question. Like, if you weren't here right now having dinner with me on a Thursday night, like what would you be doing? And I'd be like,
Mhm.
I was flat out like, I'd be home cuddling with my cat. And he was like, oh, okay. And you know what, for a long time I would not openly say that. Like, I'm gonna go home and cuddle with my cat. No, I'm going to, because that's exactly what I would be doing at
Yeah.
home, cuddling with my cat, because that's what makes me happy, right?
Yeah.
And not worrying about that whole thing. Oh, you live alone, so therefore you're a crazy cat lady. Like, I'm so over that stuff. And I think that's what we need to be. You're right. We need to allow men to be themselves, but also men need to allow us to be ourselves and not call us bitches and crazy.
Right. And I'm where I where I've have evolved into, like, writing this book. I'm telling you, Sonia, it was the most amazing cathartic process of my life. Now, if everybody could turn around and go and write a book about their life, I strongly suggest it, although it was probably one of the
Share it
most
with the
challenging.
whole world.
Yeah, well, maybe not, maybe not. Well, and like, trust me, my parents are like, "Are you going to print it with your full name?" I was like, "What? Why? What? Like, why are you asking me these questions?" And it's like, you haven't even read it. What are you worried about?
Yeah.
Right?
It's
And so they're concerned about, what am I exposing? Oh my God, like, and
fun.
it's I've had an editor, we've gone through things. She's like, Amanda, I really don't think you should put that in there. And I'm like, tell me why. And she'll tell me why. And I'm like, cut it out. It's gone.
Yeah.
Amanda, I really don't think you should put that in there. Tell me why. Nope, I disagree with you. Staying in, and it's just like, some of the conversations that I had with my mom within the book are integral to why I ended up going to therapy so many years later. And it's like, my mom is amazing. Our communication skills now are like 1,000 times better than they ever were when I was a teenager. But really, how many teenagers do you know get along really well with their mom? I mean, it's getting more so now, but when growing up, I was a challenge. I was not easy, and I gave my parents hell, and I've apologized to them for that. But that's my perception, and to write it all down and put it out there, I have no idea what's going to happen once this book gets published. I really don't. Like, there's a little bit of nervousness, but I think that's why I'm keeping myself so busy right now. But it is, um, I don't know. It's the cathartic process of going through it. It made me go back and find all of those lessons. It made me go back into all my journals and be like, all right, this is what the coach had me do. This is the exercise I had to go through. I'm going to do it again.
Yeah. I
So,
have a I have a friend who, she's a close friend of mine, and she had gone through a cancer experience, a really bad divorce, and she decided to write a book.
hmm
She told me she went to like a publisher, and he basically said to her like, what makes your book unique compared to others? And
hmm
didn't want anything to do with it. And she was like, well, you know what? I didn't write this for other people. I wrote it for me. So
hmm
she self-published on
yeah,
Amazon or whatever.
yeah,
But it wasn't about putting her book out there. It was really about her. It was cathartic to her. She needed to write it. She needed to write those things down and really go through that process. And at the end of the day, yeah, she sold copies of it, but it was meant for her, right?
Mhm.
And I think that's okay. Like if you're going to be successful in publishing it, yay, I'm going to read your book for sure. Uh, or it's not, that's okay too, because it served the purpose for you.
Yeah, it really did, and, I mean, I've got at least a half a dozen creative backup outlets that I could utilize if this whole thing goes a bust. However, I'm not thinking that it will.
I'm sure you're going to do great.
I look at it, thank you, and there's even a part in there where it says, "I wrote this book I started writing it for myself."
Yeah.
And as I was writing it, I realized, going through all of my journals, going through all of my diaries, the quantity of lessons that I learned, that I uncovered while I was doing it, I was like, I'd be doing the world a disservice if I didn't share all of these lessons and smash them into one place and say, here, read this. If you're in this kind of, if you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling undervalued, if you're in a shitty relationship and you don't know how to get out, I can't say that all of those answers are actually in the book, but here's a guideline.
Yeah.
Here's my Cliff Note version of what's happened for me over the last 20 or so years. And this is how I finally turned around and said, all right, I'm done. Like, I reached the bottom of my ability to deal with anything. And I'm hoping that people can read these stories and be like, God, I never want to get to that point. So I got to get out of this now. You know what I mean? I got to start making changes because I don't want to end up like that.
But also, if anyone who has been through similar things, I feel like I've been through some similar things than you. But even from this chat, I've already picked up on a couple things that I'm like, oh, I should be thinking about this a little differently. You know what I mean? I should apply some of the things that you're saying. So I still think there's benefits to anyone
Oh, yeah.
going through something similar, or someone who's even more advanced than you are and they're stuck and they don't know how to get out of that bad relationship, or how to not be a workaholic, or take home work home with them and know
Mhm.
that it's okay. You know what I mean? Like there's
Yeah.
women, we think too much.
Oh my God. Again, there's a study out there. I don't know who's done it, and my numbers are going to be totally off, but let's say men have 500 thoughts X, and women have like 1,200 thoughts in that same time frame. Our brains go so much faster, and there are some men out there where I'm like, because their brains are on par with ours, and I'm thinking to myself, "Ooh, I like you."
Yeah.
They're quick, but that's when you have to just pay attention. That's when you have to be aware, because like with everybody and anybody, man or woman, it's we just I don't ever want to approach anything with fear. I'm in a stage now where I'm approaching life with experience. And
Yeah.
if my gut is reminding me of a certain experience when I'm in a certain situation, you bet your ass I'm going to listen to it, because I've ignored it for 30 something years and it took me down the wrong path more times than not.
Something the like a while ago, and I was like, it really resonated with me. It was a singer, I don't remember her name, but she said, when you're getting ready to go out on a date, if you get butterflies, that's not a good thing. And I was like, what is she talking about? She's like,
What?
you shouldn't be nervous about going and meeting with the person. Butterflies
Right.
is a warning that maybe you shouldn't be in that situation, and that's why you're getting those butterflies. And I don't know if that's right or wrong, but it made me think about it in a different way, where I'm like, there's part of that which is correct, which is like, when you are going out on a date, you should be excited and happy and being like, oh, what's going to happen? She describes the butterflies as being nervous and not knowing what you're going into. And her warning sign is that's not necessarily a good thing. So should we
Yeah.
be listening to our instincts a little more?
Absolutely. I think over thousands and thousands of years of evolution, we've stopped paying attention to our natural instincts. We've stopped listening to our intuition.
Yeah.
We've stopped validating, not that things need that much validation, but we've stopped validating our innate connection with our higher power. Like, I'm not going to get all religious with you, but the universe is very strong, and I do believe more so now that there is a divine plan, and everything happens for a reason. I don't necessarily believe in coincidences. Like the simplicity of the power of our words and our thoughts, because they start here, and once they come out, well, you've just let it out. Like It's like me. I leave if I know I'm late for something or I know I want to go somewhere, and I consciously say, I'm going to get a good parking spot. I don't have time to walk. Most of the time it works, you know? And like this morning, I'm like, all right, I'm going to be late for Pilates. I'm probably not going to get the right spot.
And you didn't.
No, I got the one next to it. And it like, because I said it. I bet you if I didn't even, I said it out loud. I thought it and I said it out loud. I was like, damn it, Amanda, you know, but it's, we have discredited our intuition and we have discredited that there is a path. And I mean, I've researched 10,000 different types of things, but there's this Jovian archive, which is all about the human design and what our day, date, and time, location, time frames, like where the moon was 90 days before you were born, all this stuff on how it affects who you are as a person. And once I understood how my numbers started to line up, and I dug in and I started reading, and then I realized, you know, on the zodiac sign, I'm a water, 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 which is just God help me. And so, you know, so like you get into all those things, and I'm like, shit, I've been swimming upstream my whole life. You know why? It's time for me to just like, you know, do the backstroke and go with the flow. And as soon as I started to pay attention to what the universe's plan was for me, I realized all this stuff happened for me to get to this point, to share this stuff, not as if it's my own specifically, but as if it's everybody's, and we can all continue to learn from each other. And like one of the biggest messages is listen to your gut. And whether you want to believe that those butterflies are excitement to go and try something new, or if they're a warning sign to step away and not do it again, that's your choice, you know. And that's where the compromise comes in. How are we going to perceive these things? Where's
Love
the negotiation within ourselves?
that. I love it. So we're coming up on our time, but before we
Okay.
go, I do want to ask you, for those on the path of self-discovery and change, what is one piece of wisdom, not advice, wisdom, that you want to share about finding true fulfillment?
One piece of wisdom on finding true fulfillment is look inside first.
I like that.
And the reason why I say that is we we look for external validation all the time. We get worried if we're going to be okay, if we're going to be enough for this person, if we're not going to do too much for that person. What are they going to think? Fall in love with yourself
Mhm.
and don't worry about what other people think. Because eventually, the more that you love yourself, the more you're going to surround yourself. You're going to start attracting the people that also believe in who you are at your core. So it's an inside job.
Fantastic. And before we really wrap up, can you read a little to us of your one of your favorite parts of your book?
Yeah, it's actually in the introduction, so it's not even within one of the stories, but it is. I'd love to.
Okay.
Um, Even though these are stories of my journey of self-discovery, I hope by sharing them, they help you consider where you've come from, where you are now, and where you want to go. As you possibly recognize yourself in the characters, both good and bad, and see via the stories of my life that you are not alone. And you will learn that there are people who understand and want to be there for you with support and encouragement. These stories may be told from my perspective, but they could possibly echo similar versions of you that you've once been and that you dream of becoming.
I love what you're talking about, like different versions of you. I love that. Like we
Thank
go
you.
through that all the time. I don't think we recognize that we are different versions of ourselves.
I mean, I've changed my clothes 4 times today because right, but it's yes, we are, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just understanding when it starts to get unhealthy. That's the biggest message.
All right. Well, Amanda, like the time has come and this was so fun. I
Uh,
really enjoyed our chat, learning. I'm a big believer in continuous learning. I think we die, the day we die is the day we stop learning. And
mhm.
so I got a lot of this. I can't wait for your book to come out and I will definitely read it. Before we completely wrap up, can you tell us dates when the book is coming out? Where is it
Yeah.
going to be available? How can people find you, your
Mhm.
book? Tell us all the things about you.
All the things, yep. So the book is coming out February 29th, 2024, which happens to be my 12th birthday. And it will be available on all the big vendors, Amazon, Bam, Books A Million, Barnes and Noble as well. And for more information on who I am, you can go to my website, which is amandagreaves.com, and that's AMANDAGREAV as in Victor, ES as in Sam.com.
Thank you for tuning in today. Amanda's story is a powerful testament to the strength of the human spirit and the transformative power of self love and determination. Her insights into overcoming adversity, embracing change, and discovering one's true self are invaluable lessons for us all. To our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey of discovery and inspiration. Remember, the path to success is paved with learning, adaptation, and tenacity. Until next time, keep pushing boundaries and turning your visions into reality. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform, Tenacity with Sonia C. Join our community on social media, Techie Sonia C. I would love to hear from you. Leave a review and tell me what topics you'd like me to explore in the next episodes. Remember, the future belongs to those who embrace change and innovation with tenacity. Keep striving, keep innovating, and most importantly, stay tenacious in your pursuits. Thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to bringing you more inspiring conversations in our upcoming episodes. This is Sonia signing off, but as always, remember to chase your dreams with tenacity.